Hello, everybody. Welcome back to It's Called Football as we get ready to bring you a look ahead to Matchday 12 in the Premier League. We have no Friday fixture to kick off this weekend's fixtures. We've got five on Saturday and five on Sunday. So if you have some time over the weekend, plenty of football to sink your teeth into. On Saturday, we have the early kickoff as Wolves host Tottenham. And then we've got a few games at the same time. We will have Arsenal take on Burnley, Crystal Palace hosting Everton, and Manchester United hosting Luton Town, followed by the late fixture on Saturday, which will be Newcastle traveling to Bournemouth. Uh, some of these games are perhaps a little more clear cut on paper, although if previous matches and last weekend, especially in some cases, are anything to go by, results are not clear cut whatsoever. They never are in this league, but last weekend was another reminder of how things can change in an instant. Tottenham Hotspur, who had been unbeaten and comfortably leading the league, capitulated last weekend when they hosted Chelsea. They got two players sent off who will be unavailable for this trip to Wolves. They also picked up injuries to a couple of key players which could obviously hamper them defensively and in an attacking sense, given that they lost one attacking player and one defensive player to injury. The two suspensions, of course, were to other defensive players. For more details on what came to pass there, you could check out our Matchday 11 recap video for the details. But all this to say that Tottenham are obviously struggling a little bit now in terms of the personnel they have available, at least for this game. And traveling to Wolves is not an easy task whatsoever. If Spurs have any doubts about that, they can ask Man City or Newcastle, both of whom went to Wolves and were unable to come away with a win. City, of course, lost their match away to Wolves. That was their first league defeat of the season. And Newcastle were held to a draw there. Arguably, Wolves should have beaten them as well. So it will be tough for Tottenham. Arsenal and Burnley will be a different kind of matchup, I think. Arsenal were at home in the Champions League in midweek. They put in a controlled, dominant performance as they cruised to a victory over Sevilla, who is a good side in European competition. That will have put Arsenal feeling a lot more comfortable after their injustice suffered at Newcastle last week. Burnley, like we talked about before in previous videos, are struggling for form. They're sitting just one spot off the bottom in uh, in the league table right now, and traveling to Arsenal is tough for most teams. Burnley, of course, are with only one win so far in the league this season. They've lost six games in a row at home, the first team in league history to do that in the Premier League era. But perhaps thankfully for Burnley, this isn't a home game. They're away. Not that that's tons better, uh, but at least they don't have that home record weighing on their shoulders as they go into this game. Crystal Palace and Everton are tricky teams to predict. Both of them have the ability to turn up and play, really fluid football and play another team off the park, but they're inconsistent at doing that. Crystal Palace at home are usually a very tough opponent to break down, and I think if Everton don't show up absolutely at the top of their game, they may find this a very long match to try and fight through. Manchester United. Uh, is a strange one to try and predict. Arguably, this fixture on paper should be a routine win for United, with all respect to Luton. However, Luton Town did show last weekend that they can battle it out against the big boys. They managed to hold Liverpool to a draw last week. That, although it was at Luton's home, and obviously they had the fans mostly on their side, that's different here. But Manchester United are not the unbeatable side at home that they used to be, even up to a few years ago. They've lost quite a few games already at Old Trafford, their home stadium, and they're just coming off the back of a defeat 4-3 in midweek in the Champions League, which obviously is not ideal given that they weren't playing one of the top elite sides of Europe. They were playing FC Copenhagen in Denmark, a game which United, home or away, would be expected to win under majority of circumstances. You would still probably bet on them to win this game, but they're not necessarily predictable at winning games at the moment, United. A different United team that is doing well is Newcastle. However fortuitous, their 1-0 win at home to Arsenal last week will have given them confidence. That being said, they did then go on to lose their midweek game in the Champions League against Borussia Dortmund, a German club side. So we'll have to wait and see whether Newcastle have what it takes to bounce straight back from that. Um, if you're a Newcastle player, staff member, or supporter, there are few fixtures that you would rather have at the moment to try and bounce back into form than a trip to Bournemouth, who have not been consistent at all at getting results. They picked up just one win so far this season. And at home, obviously, they will have a little more on their side, perhaps, with the fan support. But Bournemouth held Chelsea to a 0-0 draw, but Chelsea aren't that amazing right now. And they lost 4-0 to Arsenal a few weeks ago when they hosted Arsenal. And of course, Bournemouth are coming off the back of a 6-1 defeat in the league at Manchester City. So if Newcastle do want to capitalize on a poor team in poor form right now, this is the game to do it. Sunday's fixtures start off by seeing Aston Villa hosting Fulham. Fulham obviously have not been in amazing form, but it did take until the 90th minute for Manchester United to break Fulham down and get a winning goal last week. Uh, Aston Villa themselves surprisingly lost to Nottingham Forest last week, so they will be looking to bounce back from that surprisingly poor result last weekend. Um, the good news for Villa is that they're at home and they have an impeccable record there at the moment. I think they're on 12 home games in a row that they have won in the Premier League, and they will be absolutely looking to make that 13. Then we've got Brighton, who generally have been quite good, but they do have a little bit of this up and down form in them, and they can make mistakes if they're not on their A game. Sheffield United were not doing well at all until last week when they managed to turn it around and beat Wolves, although at home. That being said, that is a huge mental block that is now going to be off those players and staff members, and they will be just simply relieved at the moment to have a win on the board. Brighton is not an easy place to travel to try and keep your form going, but perhaps Sheffield United will pull off another result. Liverpool then are hosting Brentford in a match on Sunday as well. Liverpool at home are always very difficult to try and play against. They have looked a little weaker over last season and even not fully strong defensively this season, something which Brentford might be able to exploit if they play this right. It takes the right approach to be able to get any sort of a result at Liverpool. And but you know what, Brentford have the players and the manager who are capable of executing tactics to do it. We'll see what happens. West Ham host Nottingham Forest as well, and this game will be interesting because the two teams are sitting right next to each other in the league table. West Ham slightly above Forest right now, and West Ham at home are generally good, but they did lose their last league game at home, I believe, against Everton. Forest obviously are coming off the back of a good 2-0 win against Aston Villa, and they will be wanting to build on that. And then we have the highlight fixture of the weekend where Chelsea host Manchester City. Chelsea, of course, who have just got a huge morale boosting win at Tottenham last week, and obviously is very different, um, given that Chelsea have not had a consistent run of good form, and hosting the current champions is uh, is not the ideal way to try to build your form. But if there ever was a time that Chelsea should be going in a little more confident, it is into this game, given that they've just beaten another top side by 3 goals last match day. So we'll see what happens. Quick reminder of how the league table looks after the first 11 match days were done. Manchester City, the reigning champions, are back on top of the league table for now, ahead by a single point of Tottenham Hotspur. Tottenham are then ahead of Liverpool and Arsenal, both who are 2 points behind. And Liverpool and Arsenal are exactly locked at the same number of wins, draws, losses, same goal difference, same points total. Liverpool have just scored a goal more, which is why they're sitting where they are. Aston Villa then is a little bit behind Arsenal and Liverpool, with Newcastle right on their tail. And then we've got Brighton, Manchester United, Brentford, and Chelsea in the rest of the top 10. Chelsea, who will be glad to finally be making a step up in the right direction because they have been trying to do so since last season. The bottom half of the table right now, Crystal Palace is level with Chelsea on points, who are sitting in 10th, but the goal difference means that Palace is currently sitting below them. Then we've got West Ham right below them on points, Forest right below them, and then Wolves and Fulham sitting level on points, but Wolves with a little better goal difference. Everton are then within reaching distance of the two teams above them. In fact, if all results go the way Everton would want, they could go as high as 12th by the end of this match day. That obviously will remain to be seen if that can happen. And then there's a bit of a gap because Luton Town is 5 points behind Everton, meaning even if Everton lose and Luton or Bournemouth, who are tied with them, even if either of those two teams wins, they are still behind Everton given the gap that they've got on them. And then obviously, like we can see here, Luton and Bournemouth on 6 points, and then Burnley and Sheffield United are on 4 points. A win for Sheffield United at Brighton, if they can manage it, would be incredible because then that would take them straight out of the relegation zone if the three teams above them drop points, which, to be honest, is possible because Luton Town are facing Manchester United, Bournemouth are playing Newcastle, Burnley are playing Arsenal. So all three teams above Sheffield United are playing tough top sides at the moment. So if Sheffield United can somehow eke out a result again at Brighton, it could be huge for their survival hopes in the league. The main featured match that we think would be worth your time this weekend is the very last fixture on Sunday, where Chelsea take on Manchester City. Seems obvious, perhaps, with two top sides going head to head, but this fixture has been named or nicknamed by a lot of fans as El Cashico, um, built on the name that has traditionally been given to the matches in Spain's league between Barcelona and Real Madrid, which is known as El Clásico. The reason the slight knockoff name is given to this one, El Clásico, is because both of these sides, everybody knows, have simply bought their way up to the top table where the elite teams sit. Teams like Arsenal, Manchester United, Liverpool have all been at the top of English football and at the pinnacle of the sport in England due to decades of historical success. The only reason that these two teams are at that table or even mentioned in the same breath is because in the past couple of decades, they have had owners that have simply pumped billions of pounds into the clubs and let them buy their way to the top. So everyone always nicknames this fixture that, and for good reason, really, because these two teams haven't really merited their way to success, if that's if that's the right way to put it. Obviously, different fans have their own opinions, and for long-term fans of either of these teams, that nickname and that slight, slightly poor view of their clubs doesn't apply necessarily to long-term hardcore fans that have stuck with these sides during the decades of obscurity. They deserve every bit of success that's been coming, but obviously these clubs as entities, there's a little bit of bad blood between the rest of the clubs in England and these two. Still, given the talent that the two clubs have here, they should serve up a good match in this fixture. So, what are some of the big stories to look into ahead of this match day? Well, one that we've already mentioned is that Tottenham have been hit by not only suspensions, which are self-inflicted, obviously, but injuries. They lost defender Mickey van de Ven uh, to a potential hamstring problem in their defeat last week to Chelsea. They also lost their creative midfielder James Maddison through injury. No word yet on how long he's going to be out. By contrast, their North London counterparts, Arsenal, have they also have injury concerns of their own. Both of their first choice strikers at the moment are out. Gabriel Jesus, their main starting striker, is out with a little bit of a muscle problem and probably out for 2 or 3 more weeks at least, I would say. Their backup striker in Eddie Nketiah, who scored a hat trick against Sheffield United a couple of weeks ago, he was out with a minor ankle problem for Arsenal's midweek Champions League game, but no word yet on whether he's back. We will simply have to wait and find out uh, when the lineups are announced on Saturday. However, the good news is that the two players you see here prominently, Bukayo Saka and Gabriel Martinelli, who have had a little bit of patchy form here and there in the season so far, and both been hit by injuries now and then, which have prevented them from getting that consistent run of matches that they did last year. Both look to be hitting top form. There was a slight injury concern for Saka, who limped off during their midweek match. No word yet on whether he's available for this fixture. We'll have to remain and see. Gabriel Martinelli was electric in their victory over Sevilla on Wednesday, and if he can continue that way, he will definitely be a problem for opposition defenses, starting with Burnley this weekend. Another attacking player who seems to be getting back into his usual top form is Erling Haaland of Manchester City. He scored 2 goals for them in their midweek Champions League match, which sealed their qualification to the knockout stages of the Champions League with 2 games to spare. Only a couple of other teams so far in the competition are in this position, and it's great for Man City that they can do this because now they can rest some of their best players for their remaining 2 group stage games in the Champions League. However, in order for City to continue their good run in the league, they have to take on a Chelsea side that maybe will be revitalized after their win at Tottenham, but given how Chelsea have been so far this season, they haven't consistently built together a run of results. Man City are a formidable threat, and Chelsea will have to be playing well beyond what they did at Tottenham if they want a result against City. That might seem strange to say, given that Chelsea won 4-1 at Tottenham, who were league leaders up to that point. But Chelsea actually did not play amazingly in that game. They got goals simply because of Tottenham's personnel disadvantage because they had 2 players sent off. But I think if that game had been 11 on 11, or maybe even if Tottenham had had 10 players instead of 9, I actually think they would have beaten Chelsea anyway. Chelsea were poor, and they really need to be a lot better this weekend. And then finally, some really, really great news coming from Liverpool. Luis Diaz, as we mentioned a couple of videos ago, his parents had both been kidnapped in his home country of Colombia. His mother had been returned fairly soon after the kidnapping, but his father had still been held captive. News has broken out in within the last 24 hours that Diaz's father has also been released from the kidnappers and is safe and sound at the moment, healthy, and fantastic news to hear from Liverpool and for Luis Diaz. We're all really glad and relieved that this part of his personal life is this horrible, terrifying chapter has finally kind of ended, and it's ended on a good note. So, congratulations to Luis Diaz on this good news, and hopefully, he won't have to suffer anything like this again. So, in terms of the football, what are we thinking will be the results of this weekend's fixtures? Even though Spurs have, excuse me, some injuries, problems, suspensions to deal with, I do think they still have a lot of talent, and the attacking players they still have are in excellent form. Um, I think it will be a closer game because Wolves are at home and Wolves have a lot of their main players available, although they are missing Pedro Neto, one of their own star players, due to a little bit of an injury concern. So I still think Spurs are going to win this one, but perhaps narrowly 2-1. Arsenal at home have been good this season. They picked up results against both of the Manchester teams when they visited Emirates Stadium. Burnley have not been anywhere near in the kind of form that the other top teams have had, even though Arsenal have gotten results against them. They may score a goal, Burnley, but I think Arsenal should be winning this game fairly comfortably. If they can do it anywhere near the way they dispatched of Sevilla in midweek, then Arsenal fans will have a comfortable weekend. Like I said before, Palace at home are very difficult to beat. Even the top teams have struggled hugely at trying to get results against them. And I think that the same kind of thing will happen with Everton. If they're on their A game, they can get a result, but I'm not 100% sure that Everton will be on their A game, whereas Palace don't need to be at 100% because of the sheer atmosphere that their home ground generates. It is enough to put opposition teams off. I think Palace will come out of this game 2-1 winners. Like we said earlier as well, Manchester United have not been in great form. Luton picked up a good result against Liverpool, but I do think that United have enough of what it takes. Every week I keep saying that they should win comfortably, but I think this one actually it really should be on paper with the quality that United have. Luton have the capability absolutely of making this 2-1. They may even actually sneak a win out of the game if United are not on form. But I think United's manager will have really ripped into them after their midweek defeat uh, in Copenhagen. So I think United will win this one 2-0. Bournemouth and Newcastle, I think this one goes the way of Newcastle fairly comfortably. I don't think it will be as much of a blowout as Man City did against Bournemouth, but I do think Newcastle will come out winners comfortably in this game. 3-0 is my prediction for this one. Villa and Fulham again is a tough one to call. Fulham can be good on their day. They've managed to steal a point at Brighton. But Villa arguably have been more consistent than Brighton have and have been playing better football in general. Villa will also be stung by their defeat last week to Nottingham Forest, and they will want to make sure their home run recently, their home record, remains as good as it has been. I'm going to go for 3-0 to Aston Villa. Brighton and Sheffield United, I think on paper this one should be a Brighton win. Sheffield United did great to get their first win last season, but I think Brighton at home is kind of similar to Palace at home. They're different beasts there, and they tend to cause even more problems than usual for most teams that travel there. And so I'm going to say Brighton to win this too. Brentford are a tough team to break down, but it's not clear yet whether they have the players that can resist Liverpool's attacking might for an entire game. I don't think they quite have that in them. And while I think Brentford will potentially get a goal because Liverpool's defense has still been prone to lapses in concentration, I think Liverpool will take the win 3-1 here. West Ham and Forest, I think, is going to be a very, very cagey match, very close, not tons of chances put away. Both teams are capable of creating lots of chances, but I'm not sure either will blow the other one away. I'm going for a narrow 2-1 win to West Ham. And Chelsea and Manchester City, uh, I wish I could say with confidence that Chelsea will follow up that strong result with a strong performance in this game, but they haven't been good at home. Very similar to Manchester United, they've been very iffy at home, and Man City is a team that will punish every mistake that an opposition side makes. Ultimately, I think Chelsea are more prone to those lapses in concentration than they would like to be, and City will capitalize. And I'm going 3-0 to Man City. That's where we're going to leave you for today. We hope that you enjoyed this video. Please drop a like on it if you did, and subscribe to the channel. If you know of anyone else that may be interested in what we talk about, what we cover here, please do pass on this video to them or any of the others that you think they would like. We would always love to have new viewers and new subscribers to our channel. But in the meantime, we hope you enjoy the football that takes place over the weekend. Hopefully, you're able to watch it. But in case you're not, we will be back as usual next week once the fixtures are done with a recap of Matchday 12. Until then, take care, stay safe, and remember, it's called football.